Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch. Seeing no cards up at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Tammy for our next discussion.
You guys are going to have to stop being so industrious during lunch and give us all these new proposals. I'm just teasing. All right. That's yet to be. No, I'm scared you're going to say something else. Bob, we're going to take this back and look at this a little bit more in depth. We can't really do that right now. So we have it. We're going to look at it, and we'll circle back when we have some more information.
Yeah, Bob, I think the overall direction is we don't want to create a situation where because of a call up or some other called service that the borrower loses the advantage of the grandfathering provision. So I think we're on the same page there.
I figured that, but I wanted to make sure it didn't fall through the cracks. So thank you.
All right. So we did have a chance to look at the new proposals and some of the outstanding items. And thank you for letting us be a little late because we were right in the middle of working through the very items that we said we would take back. And I didn't want to stop the momentum. I wanted to kind of get those finished so that we could move on. So in no particular order, 674.39, 682.405, 685.211, 670, I already said 674.39. Fresh Start was never considered a rehabilitation. We have publicly stated that before. We will make sure that is on the website and that it is in the preamble. But no, Fresh Start was not intended to be a rehabilitation. That was a fresh start based on being in default. Okay, so that's off. That answers that question, I hope. Okay. 685.203 on page number 2, where I'm not sure who said this. I think it was Alex. It's one of y'all, Alex Squared, where we say if the student withdraws, and you were saying you wanted unless the student withdraws.
No, that was Andy.
Andy, I'm sorry. Sorry, Alex Squared. Andy said this. That's what I get for not looking at my notes in here. We do not want to switch that language. We think changing that language to unless undoes the paragraph, so we're going to keep that as if.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and
That's the
Alex Holt. While we appreciate the suggestion in E4, Romanet 1 and Romanet 2, we were very intentional that it was at that institution. In fact, that was a change that was made during the first session to clarify that that is at that institution. Those two provisions are, we expect it to be the same institution, the same program moving forward.
Alex Holt.
Okay, so let's step away from the language for a sec. I just want to make sure then. So we agree that the aggregate limit moving forward is $100,000 total, no matter the institution you go to. Okay, so then, sorry, that's G?
That's G.
Okay, sorry, so.
Go back to E for us?
Yeah, we're at E4, Romanet 1.
E4 is the grandfathering.
E4 is the grandfather.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No.
Is E4 begins July 1.
Right, so that's why I don't understand.
Okay. So
Maybe I just don't understand what this language is doing, because it says for a graduate student for a period of enrollment beginning on or after July 1st, 2026. So we're only talking about new students, right?
New borrowers.
Sorry, new borrowers, excuse me.
Mhm.
New borrowers who is not and has never been a professional student at that institution, $100,000. So that is um, isn't that the aggregate limit? $100,000? It's not the,
Yes,
yeah, okay, so it's the aggregate limit.
yep.
So then it shouldn't be that institution, it should be an institution, right? Because it's any institution, $100,000.
Okay, so I believe we thought this was the grandfathering provision, so let us take this back again
Okay,
and revisit, because we may have done the same thing that you did and conflated where this, what we were
Yeah.
actually talking
we've
about.
been going back and forth on
We
this
have.
because
Mhm.
we keep getting mixed, sorry, we keep
Yeah.
getting mixed up between the grandfathering and the new.
Mhm. Yes. So let us take that back. But however, in G2, we are intentional in keeping it at an institution. So that one is intentional. So we'll keep that one there. And Alex Ritchie, we are going to remove for enrollment in an eligible program of study and for the entire period of enrollment in G2 that you asked for. So both of those will be done. Obviously, we don't have reg text right this moment. One thing that we are taking back is this, the program of study, the change in program degree type. We ran out of time to fully flesh out what we want to do here, so we have to take that one back. So expect us to come back with something on that one, okay? Thank you. And okay, I'm trying to see if we have anything here. Nope, that's the same thing there. Okay, that was it on that one. Now, we did have another question where, hold on, we had another. Patty had a question and I thought I had it written down somewhere. But I can't find it. So Patty, this is about the proration. I'm going to try to find it because Jeff had given me all the right words to say, and I'm going to just find those words. So forgive me, I cannot find it right at the moment. What you said about the proration part. When I find it, I will come back to it. It is here somewhere. Okay. These guys have me so organized. I can't find anything. I mean, not them. They're great. Okay, so the next one is the AW. So this is
Tammy, before you go on, Ashley has her card up.
Sorry, I just wanted to respond to what you said earlier about rehabilitation and fresh start. Our concern was that in the department's publication of information on Fresh Start, there was still a subset of borrowers who could have taken advantage of Fresh Start, but didn't and instead rehabilitated. And so that wasn't supposed to count against their chance to rehabilitate in the future. So that's why we wanted to include that language to catch that subset of borrowers who rehabilitated instead of used Fresh Start to get a default. Which is in the department
have-
published material.
they have already rehabilitated.
Yeah.
And so they
Okay.
will be allowed to get another rehabilitation, but if they have already rehabilitated,
Well, this language says that wouldn't count against them. To ensure borrowers who could have taken advantage of Fresh Start but rehabilitated instead and are not harmed, borrowers who rehabilitated their loan during the payment pause will be able to rehabilitate again if they redefault. So that wasn't supposed to count against their total amount of rehabilitation.
and what are you reading from?
It's a Fresh Start. It's a federal student aid Fresh Start pamphlet.
Okay, We will
Send
have
it
to take
to
a
us.
look- Yeah, we'll have to take
Yeah.
a look at that because the statutory changes now. We have to look at the statutory changes now.
I'll just email the.
Of course. Send it our way. Okay.
Jenna?
Just a housekeeping question. So on section 203, the open items are the program versus degree type for Parent Plus Legacy, the E4 question on that versus an institution. I'm not sure if we landed. Did we land on the part-time enrollment? Yep.
That's the piece of paper I can't find at the moment. So we have not landed on that. We have landed on it. I just don't know where we landed yet, but I will. We are not making any changes. We're just clarifying. So, yes, ma'am. Those are the pieces that are still outstanding. Okay. So back to the November 3rd AWG from Tamar. This is, we are not going to make any changes here because we're not going to regulate ourselves. The secretary already exercises discretion around AWG and stopping after 5 rehabilitation payments. And so we do not want to create a perverse incentive for borrowers to try to rehab and, stop the collections and things like that. So we already have this in place. And once they pass the midpoint of rehabilitation, we're making a good faith effort to stop the collections anyway. And so at this point, we are not going to make any changes, but we appreciate the suggestion. So the other issue where we had 682-215B1, I'm not sure what has happened here, but it looked, oh God, excuse me. It looks like some language got mixed up and the most recent information, the most recent proposed text is not what you guys are proposing changes to. This is Tamar and Ashley. So we don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that we have written, because if you look at B1 now, it says for the income-based repayment plan, a borrower may elect to have their aggregate monthly payment recalculated to not exceed the applicable amount when the borrower initially enters the plan. The borrower's aggregate monthly loan payments are limited to no more than 15% of the amount by which the borrower's AGI exceeds 150% of the poverty line. Income applicable to the borrower's family size divided by 12. The loan holder adjusts the calculated monthly payment. If. I think at one point when we were trying to clarify income contingent repayment that it got included, but then we had already taken that out. And so we think that somewhere along the way that there was some confusion about what that B1 truly said. So it does not reference the pay plan getting 15 and then 10%. But we did find that somewhere else and we have ratified that by fixing it. And I don't think it's in this provision. I think it's in a different provision. But we did find where that was listed. It is in whatever provision that's in. I think it's in 6. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Are you talking about 685-209B1?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you. So we have fixed that. And when we get to that one, I'll show you what that one is. So in 685-201, this is, we have already stated, where are my notes on this one? There's the note. Okay. I don't think there's any changes. Andy, I think here you were saying something about the plus loan here, but in the language it says may apply for a direct plus loan if the student satisfies the conditions set forth. So I'm not sure what your, we're going to add a parenthetical that says,
Yeah.
no, that's not the right thing.
Was that for the legacy provision? Okay.
Grandfathering?
Mm-mm.
No,
No, that's not.
we're talking about different things.
So in 200, we are putting in a parenthetical. I think your question was relating to the cross-reference to 200.
Yeah.
We are including plus direct and unsub. So plus direct sub and unsub where we say a direct loan in B. So in Romanet 2B, we are putting a direct loan, parenthetical, plus loan, direct subsidized, and unsubsidized loan was made for such a program of study prior to July 1, 2026.
That would eliminate the preamble need then, I think, because then it's right in the
Yes, sir.
regulatory text. That's,
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. That's
Yep.
very helpful for everybody.
Okay. All right. On 685-102, we are putting in the cross-reference of 34 CFR 668.3 because we are talking about a concept of time. It's equivalent to a period of time, and we don't want to get that confused. So that was from Alex Holt, and we are going to take that one. You are welcome. Okay, I think. So Patty, you had asked for the proration question about a student who is in their last term of enrollment to seek their degree, whether it's longer or shorter, and talking about the two prorations. One is the schedule of reductions is about an amount, and the proration based on their last term of enrollment is a period of time. So we think that you still have to do both of them because you first have to see the period of time that they're in, and you also have to know for the whole academic year, with that whole period of time, what they're eligible for. And so if they're not full-time, it has to be that reduced amount, and it has to be that reduced amount based on the period of time that they're going to be enrolled.
Ashley?
I'm sorry, I think I'm getting myself confused with all these different section numbers. Did you address the IBR provision of 682-215?
I am talking about 685-203M at the moment.
No, oh,
Bring it
yeah.
back to-
Oh, sorry, I was going back to when you were addressing our issues. So whenever
So-
you get a chance.
Let me
Yeah,
finish here,
whatever-
and then
thank
we'll
you.
go back there. So there's not a penalty to the borrower. We are not seeing a penalty to the borrower here.
I'm having a hard time connecting the dots. So are you saying that you would just choose the lesser of the amount? Are you saying that you have to do both calculations?
You have to do both calculations because in the first calculation for the loan amount, you're looking at the proportion of credits that borrower is enrolled at relative to what a full-time student would be enrolled in for an academic year. In the second case, you're looking at, you have to prorate the award because the program itself is less than an academic year. So let's say, you have non-standard terms and other situations like that, right? And so there's a proration there on the overall loan amount. or on the overall loan is prorated after you've determined the loan amount that they're eligible for.
Okay, I put together a scenario and by doing both, it significantly impacts a student's borrowing and their capability to complete their program.
Sure, we'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Ashley, did you have another question?
Sorry, it was my question about whether or not Tammy addressed our issue with 682-215.
So your issue is that pay was in the,
No, that was 685-209.
hold on, B1. Well, that's what I was saying. We think the language that we have in B1, for the income-based repayment plan, a borrower may elect to have their aggregate monthly payment recalculated to not exceed the applicable amount when the borrower initially enters the plan. No, this is two.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with you.
So I'm not sure, based on what I saw, your proposal, I think that was outdated reg text that you submitted that proposal for, because this is what B1 says.
Yeah, so I think we're conflating both two different sections. So the 685-209 dealt with the 15% issue under pay, but 682-15, our issue is that we think that as written, when the borrower initially enters the plan, that section should not be in there. It should, because their payments recalculated every year at 15%, so it shouldn't be based on when they initially enter the plan. We don't think that should be the cap.
Number 2.
Page 2, the top, B1. What was that?
Okay.
That was a helpful clarification. Thank you.
And you did clarify that twice, so thank you. So third time's a charm.
And if I can make one more comment about something else you said on a different topic, whenever you're ready. You mentioned that the secretary is exercising her discretion and stopping administrative wage garnishment after 5 payments of rehabilitation. We also are just, that's not the only method of collections. So we were hoping that we could address the other methods of collection that could be similarly stopped once the borrower has shown that they're successfully rehabilitating their loan. So that was in our email, and I don't believe that you addressed that.
Yes, it's point 2. So we're still not making any changes at this point. So once rehabilitation, the idea here is if a borrower is really seeking rehabilitation, they're going to continue to do what they need to do. And we stop everything at 5 payments. So we're not sure, like Treasury offset and federal benefits, if they're under AWG, they're not, and they're paying, they're not going to have the offset. I mean, that's the next step, should there not be this first layer of AWG and completing a rehabilitation agreement. If they fail that rehabilitation agreement, they do not successfully rehabilitate, then we're going to look at other methods of collection.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, you're saying if there is an AWG in effect, they're not going to have their tax refunds seized at the same time? Because that's what we're concerned about, is that there's going to be multiple means of collection, which is going to inhibit their ability to successfully rehabilitate.
There are, in my understanding, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, there are layers. Here's a starting point. And the starting point is if we've done everything that we can and the borrower is still not paying, then we're going to do administrative wage garnishment, AWG. We're going to try that route. And that is like the base level. We're starting there. And so I don't believe it goes, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, I don't think it goes to Treasury offset unless they are not paying at all and there is no. Do we need to clarify that? Okay, we're going to clarify that then.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well,
Right
that's
now,
great.
Yeah, AWG isn't happening right now, but TOP is. And so
Well, but isn't that because of where we were? Like, that's not the normal process, right?
I'm not sure what's normal because nothing's in regulations.
Riccardi, FSA. Yeah, sorry. So today it's AWG that we don't certify right away. So we would certify for top right away if, and then we would move to AWG later.
Would we pull the loan back from TOPS before we do AWG? My understanding is that we keep them simultaneously, correct?
I think that's the case. I can confirm, just double check.
And I think that was the concern. If you're going to stop AWG after 5 successful rehabilitation payments, why not all the other methods of collection?
I mean, for one, TOPS once a year thing.
Well, it could be federal benefits payments, which is not one year.
Could be, but you don't have the certainty there. So I don't think that we're going to switch off top while we have a defaulted debt still there. So every time there's a federal payment, every time there's a tax, until the loan is no longer in default, we would probably still keep that on.
I think the broader point here is because there's nothing within OB3 that encourages us to open this up or commands us to open it up, and there's no reason that we would bind our hands in terms of, how to collect debt from borrowers who aren't paying. There are certain things we do discretionary, but on a discretionary basis, like we stop collecting AWG, traditionally basically after 5 months, because at that point a borrower has shown a good faith effort towards actually making rehab. We don't want to put in things that could either, constrain our ability to collect or moreover allow borrowers to manipulate or take advantage of specific provisions.
No, I understand. I just feel like the same rationale could apply to the other methods of collection as it applies to wage garnishment. They're showing that they're making payments, but by taking away their monthly income, you're kind of preventing them from successfully rehabilitating because you're reducing the amount of money they have to pay towards rehab. That doesn't make sense. I feel like the spirit of OB3 is to get borrowers out of default and keep them out of default, and you're kind of preventing that from happening by continuing the collections and ensuring that they don't have the means to actually rehabilitate successfully. That's our
OBBB did not give a provision around this, so we cannot speak to the intent of what the bill wanted us to do here. They did not give us any provisions whatsoever to stop top or other than what we already have. So while it's something that may need to be looked at in the future, under this particular, there's nothing in OBBB that is telling us these are the steps that we want you to take for these particular situations. We appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We will definitely take a look at it. But as far as being able to fix this particular issue within these negotiations, we do not believe that we can do that through these negotiations. And we already have the Secretary's discretion and at least stopping AWG after 5 payments showing good faith effort. We're not saying we won't look at this because it's a very valid point. We just cannot look at it through the scope of these regulations because it's not really addressed in OBBB. The focus of OBBB, if you look at it, is about limiting loans and making sure that students and borrowers are accountable for the loans that they do get and giving them parameters for which to borrow under. And unfortunately, I don't see where this one is one that we can to do anything now would be a perverse incentive. We certainly don't want to do that at this point. We need to look at this, but it's not really the purpose of these negotiations.
Okay. I guess we'll just leave it at we urge the Secretary to exercise her discretion with all methods of collection, not just AWG.
Absolutely. So noted. All right, on to what was received by Mr. Holt Friday. Expected time to credential. We've done that. Changed that an institution. We're going back again. Let's see, what is this one? Undeclared major, we're taking that one back still. And that point of clarification about the dual degree, we are still looking at that. 685-208B, the new tiered standard plan, we're looking at that one as well. And 685-209, we are not able to touch repay at this time.
Nope.
Sir?
No. Slightly different issue. We didn't actually talk about this one. You are able to, so all I'm saying here is that the language only mentions pay. It says the pay or ICR plan, and I'm just saying you are referring to two specific plans, pay and ICR, and I understand that you can't
Okay.
touch
So you want us to say ICR?
exactly. I want you to use the authority instead of the plan.
I did not get that from what you said, so we'll take a look at that. No, that's okay. I saw repay and the minute we heard the repay was like, whoop.
I should not have put repay in. I was trying to say I'm not saying this, but you see it and
Yeah, okay. Thanks for clarifying that. We'll take that one back. All right, Tamar, okay, we talked about the 682-215. We are not changing any language in the IBR plan. In that language, 682-215 and 682-405 loan rehabilitation, we're not changing AWG or adding any additional suspending collections in that. We talked about that already. And then 685-209. So switching from ICR or other IDR plans to the IBR plan, I'm not sure. I don't think we discussed that one.
No.
So we're going to have to take that one back. That one was on the next page, and I'm sorry we didn't see that it went on the next page. Okay? So, but we'll get you an answer on that one. Then to prorate RAP payments for married borrowers, we are treating income the same way that the IRS treats the income. If you are married filing jointly, your income is combined. If you are married filing jointly and you have a loan, then that income is combined. If you want to get out of that, you can file separately. So we're not making any changes there.
Ashley?
Yeah, so just to clarify on that, it's not the amount of what income you're using, it's the matter of the monthly payment, if it's based on the overall debt and each spouses who are both
Yes.
borrowers. So it's not the income, it's the amount of the.
No,
that
but
each-
we are treating it, we are not going to prorate those payments. The OBB was very specific that this was the language. Congress's intention was, this is the language. If you're married, it's going to be the payment. And again, if it's married filing jointly, it's combined income.
Yeah.
And so if they have payment, they're going to have to pay it like that. They're
they're
not
paying
gonna be a
double.
proration.
Okay, so they're paying double if they're married filing jointly.
No, they're not paying double. They're paying what they owe.
We're not paying a pro rata share like all the other IDR plans, so the RAP is completely recalculated as opposed to the other IDR plans?
I mean,
Because I honestly don't think Congress intended to punish married couples filing jointly by making them pay double the amount.
I don't think you should think of it as punishing. I mean, you get tax benefits from filing, married filing jointly. If you're getting those benefits, it stands to reason that Congress would also, not give you an extra break here. You're getting the benefit of, tax benefit of filing jointly. So if that's the case, you're trading off the fact that your student loan payments are going to be higher if you're filing jointly. If you want to basically split those out, it would make sense to file separately, but that's something individual borrowers will have to weigh, the tax benefits versus the burden on their student loan payments.
Okay.
Alex Holt?
I just want to state two things for the record on this. First of all, I think that actually under 493C of the HEA, it's pretty clear that IBR, you only get the pro rata if you file separately. I think jointly under IBR. So how are you reading 493C?
I'm reading it that under all the other IDR plans, borrowers who file jointly and who each have debt, it's a pro rata share. And it's for IBR, and it's also, and they can be on different repayment plans too. Only ICR requires both spouses to be enrolled in ICR to have the pro rata share. And I find a hard time believing that they decided to go against all of that for RAP.
So I know that from the, this is the second point I wanted to make. I guess maybe I'm reading the statute wrong, but I think we're having different interpretations of 493C, but the cost in OBA would have been significantly higher if it was interpreted that married jointly was going to be pro rata. Like, it's pretty specific that the cost was specific only to to those filings separately. And if they had been combined, it would have significantly added to the cost of the RAP plan and thus reduced the savings. So from an intent perspective, I think we kind of know that that was how they meant it. Just FYI. So if the department were to change this right now, then as like the taxpayer advocate, I would say that they're making an economically significant change, and that would be a very serious issue, like billions of dollars worth of change.
I would like to caucus on this issue whenever it's a appropriate time.
And who would you like in your caucus?
Everyone,
And how long do you think you'll need?
10 minutes.
Okay. So the request has been for a caucus for all negotiators for 10 minutes. So I would ask members of the public to please step outside.
No, I can't find it.
Um, a caucus of the whole, hold on, guys. I don't think the department's willing to do a caucus of the whole committee. That's sort of counter to the open meeting. I know we did it the last time, but we got some criticisms from folks. So if you want to talk about it, the whole committee, let's have a discussion of the whole committee. Caucuses are generally for side discussions with smaller groups.
I'll limit it then. I will limit the caucus. Okay, so it'll be federal negotiators, legal aid, and veteran, whoever represents borrowers, so borrowers and veteran borrowers, and not institutions. And taxpayers, what? And state agencies. Does that make sense? Yes.
Okay, let me read back the list that I have. Legal aid, borrowers, veteran borrowers, taxpayers, and state agencies.
Yes.
So then I'll have you all step out with Margot in the back to go to another room for the caucus. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience during the caucus and break. I'm now going to turn it over to Jeff to do the report out from the caucus.
Sure, thanks. We clarified what everyone meant and what everyone understood in terms of the issue at the table. So the issue was not the inclusion of joint income. The issue was the calculation of monthly payments under RAP when you have two borrowers and they are married and they have a joint income. So we agreed to take a look at that and have language in there regarding the calculation of monthly payments under RAP for that scenario. So it's two borrowers, married, joint income.
Andy?
If done with that comment, we're going to make a switch for the primary, secondary. Can we do that now?
Yes. Jeffrey, can you bring your table card to the table with you? Thank you. Okay, we have no cards up at this time, so Tammy, I'll turn it back to you.
We are happily not going to look at any of those proposals right now until tomorrow. We're going to move forward. So let's look at number 9, discussion draft. It's 685-205 forbearance. We'll give Linnea a minute because I'm sure she was probably thinking we were somewhere else. Okay, let's jump right in. Period of forbearance, C1 Romanet 1 and Romanet 2. The Secretary grants forbearance for a period of up to 1 year for loans dispersed on or after July 1, 2027, and notwithstanding paragraph C1 Romanet 1 of this section, the Secretary grants forbearance for a period that does not exceed 9 months within a 24-month period for forbearances under paragraph A1 of this section. The forbearance under this paragraph C1 Romanet 2 begins on the first month for which the forbearance is granted. Are there any questions or any discussion around 685-205? No changes, correct. Hurry, let's get to the next one before we change anything. No, just kidding. 685-204 deferment. We have revised paragraphs F and G. F, unemployment deferment, 1 Romanet 1 for loans dispersed before July 1, 2027. A direct loan borrower is eligible for a deferment during periods that collectively do not exceed 3 years in which the borrower is seeking and unable to find full-time employment. Romanet 2 for loans dispersed on or after July 1, 2027. A borrower may not receive an unemployment deferment. Paragraph 3, for the purposes of obtaining an unemployment deferment under paragraph F2, Romanet 2 of this section, the following rules apply. G, economic hardship deferment, 1 Romanet 1. For loans dispersed before July 1, 2027, a direct loan borrower who has experienced or will experience an economic hardship in accordance with paragraph G2 of this section is eligible for a deferment during periods that collectively do not exceed 3 years. Romanet 2, for loans dispersed on or after July 1, 2027, a borrower may not receive an economic hardship deferment under paragraph G of this section. And we've changed Romanet 2 to Romanet 3. Questions or comments? $685,208, proposed draft number 10. All right, all right, Jenna. So proud of you. 685-208 fixed payment repayment plans. Paragraph B, fixed repayment plans for direct loans made before July 1, 2026. Number 1, standard repayment plan for all direct subsidized loan, direct unsubsidized loan, and direct plus loan borrowers who have not received a direct loan on or before July 1, 2026, and for direct consolidation loan borrowers who entered repayment before July 1, 2006, and have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. We've restructured the paragraphs Romanet 1, Romanet 2, Romanet 3. We've added a Romanet 4. The repayment period for the repayment plan described in this paragraph B1 does not include periods of authorized deferment or forbearance. 2, standard payment plan for direct consolidation loan borrowers ending repayment on or after July 1, 2006, and who have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. Reorganized paragraph Romanet 1, Romanet 2, and in Romanet 1, we added the cross-reference to B2, Romanet 3. Paragraph 2, and then paragraph 3, repayment period under this paragraph B2, if the total amount of the direct consolidation loan and the borrower's other student loans as defined in section 685-220 Romanet, I think that might be I, 685-220I is A, less than 75,000. Okay, we did not change any of this, and I'm going to spare you all the fact that we're reading all of these limits, all of this amounts, because I think you guys know that we haven't changed anything there. Extended repayment plan, we have added a clause and who have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. We've restructured the paragraphs, added a Romanet 4, and in Romanet 1, we've added a cross-reference to B4, Romanet 4. In Romanet 4, repayment period under this paragraph B3, if the total amount of the borrower's direct loan is, and same thing, it's all of those amounts greater than or equal to. We haven't changed any of those. In paragraph 4, we've added the clause who have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. Again, added Romanet 4 with all of, and remember what we did here is we restructured to move the terms all under each respective repayment plan. So this has not changed from the last time that we discussed this. So it looks like it's a lot of red line, but what we did was these provisions were all at the end of 208. And what we chose to do is as we were discussing each plan, it made more sense to move all of the terms related to that plan underneath that plan so that when you got to the end, you're like, what is all this about? And have to look back and forth. So that's really why it looks like there's a lot of red line. 5, we've added the clause and who have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. We've added the cross-reference in Romanet 1 to B5, Romanet 4, restructured paragraph Romanet 2, Romanet 3, added another Romanet 4 and a Romanet 5. 6, the same exact thing that we've done. We've added the clause to make sure that there's not a new direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. 7, this one is about the graduated repayment plan for direct consolidation loan. We've added the clause, we've not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026, restructured paragraphs Romanet 1, Romanet 2, Romanet 3, updated the cross-reference in Romanet 1 to B7, Romanet 3, and talked about the repayment periods under this provision in 3, A, B, C, D, E, F, and we have Romanet 4. In 8, this is the new tiered standard repayment plan for direct loan borrowers who received a direct loan before July 1, 2026, and also received a direct loan that was made on or after July 1, 2026. Under this repayment plan, a borrower must repay a loan in full by making fixed monthly payments over a repayment period that varies with the total amount of the borrower's direct loans as described in paragraph B8, Romanet 2 of this section. Romanet 2, repayment period. Under this repayment plan, if the total amount of direct loans at the time the borrower is entering repayment is A, and here's all the limits again, less than $25,000, the borrower must repay the direct loan within 10 years, equal to or greater than $25,000, but less than $50,000, the borrower must repay the loan within 15 years of entering repayment. equal to or greater than 50,000 but less than 100,000, the borrower must repay the direct loan within 20 years of entering repayment, and equal to or greater than 100,000, the borrower must repay the direct loan within 25 years of entering repayment. Subparagraph C, fixed repayment plans for direct loans made on or after July 1, 2026. The fixed repayment plans under this paragraph C shall only apply to direct loans made on or after July 1, 2026. 1. Tiered standard repayment plan for direct loan borrowers who received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. Romanet 1. Under this repayment plan, a borrower must repay a loan in full by making fixed monthly payments over a repayment period that varies with the total amount of the borrower's direct loans as described in paragraph C1, Romanet 2 of this section. Romanet 2. Repayment period. Under this repayment plan, if the total amount of direct loans at the time the borrower is entering repayment is, and here we go with all of the calculations that we just read all over again, and that is the end of 685-208. Questions or comments? Okay, I think for the purposes of this exercise, we might want to skip 209 for right now. I think we've talked about that enough. We'll revisit that one tomorrow with probably new language, but may just be foreshadowing there. So if we'll go to number 12, 685-210 choice of repayment plan. We've added a Romanet 1 to A1. We've added a Romanet 2 that we say borrowers with direct loans made on or after July 1, 2026 may select the tiered standard repayment plan in accordance with section 685-208 if those direct loans are otherwise eligible to be repaid under the plan, or B, the repayment assistance plan in accordance with section 685-209 if those direct loans are otherwise eligible to be repaid under the plan. 2, Romanet 1 for direct loans made before July 1, 2026, if, and then we have updated the cross-references of 685-208 B2-1 and B2 for the borrower. We've added a Romanet 2 for direct loans made on or after July 1, 2026. If a borrower does not select a repayment plan, the Secretary designates the tiered standard repayment plan described in section 685-208C1 for the borrower. In subparagraph 3, we've added a Romanet 3. We have also cleaned up where we say and in Romanet 1, and then added a semicolon and in Romanet 2. A borrower of a direct plus loan or an accepted consolidation loan defined under section 685-209 that is not eligible for repayment under the repayment assistance plan must repay the direct plus loan or accepted consolidation loan separately from other direct loans obtained by the borrower that are being repaid under the repayment assistance plan. B, a borrower who has received an accepted loan as defined under section 685-209 made on or after July 1, 2026 must repay the accepted loan under the tiered standard repayment plan under section 685-208C1 and may repay the other direct loans separately from such accepted loan. Changing repayment plans. We have added the clause in paragraph 1 for direct loans made before July 1, 2026 and changed the capital A to a lowercase a. In paragraph 2, we have added the clause in Romanet 1 for direct loans made before July 1, 2026. We've changed the capital A to a lowercase a. For paragraph 3, for direct loans made before July 1, 2026, we've changed the capital A to a lowercase a. There's a pattern here. In paragraph 4, Romanet 1 for direct loans made before July 1, 2026, we have changed the capital I to a lowercase I for the word if, and we have added the clause at the end, or the repayment assistance plan. For the standard repayment plan, the Secretary recalculates the borrower's monthly payment based on, and we've updated paragraph B to include the cross-reference of 685-208B7, Romanet 3. Romanet 2, we've added the clause for direct loans made before July 1, 2026. We've changed the capital A to a lowercase a. We've added number 5. For direct loans made on or after July 1, 2026, a borrower may change repayment plans in accordance with this paragraph B5 at any time after the loan has entered repayment by notifying the Secretary. Romanet 1, a borrower who is enrolled in the tiered standard repayment plan under section 685-208C1 or is placed in the tiered standard repayment plan in accordance with the provisions under paragraph A2, Romanet 2 of this section may change to the repayment assistance plan under section 685-209. Romanet 2, a borrower who is enrolled in the repayment assistance plan under section 685-209 may change to the tiered standard repayment plan under section 685-208C1. Questions or comments on 685-210? Hearing none, 685-211. Number 13, discussion draft. We have added in A1, Romanet 1, after income-based repayment plan, the words or repayment assistance plan. In Romanet 2, we have added after income-based repayment plan or the repayment assistance plan. In B, and late charges are added after collection costs, and then C has become loan principal, and we've removed the reference to D. In 3, Romanet 2, we have added the clause after a direct consolidation loan that is not accepted, that is not an accepted consolidation loan as defined in section 685-209. We have moved the reference of income contingent repayment, and we have added repayment assistance plan. In subparagraph F, 1, Romanet 1, minimum payment amounts, paragraph A, before July 1, 2027, the secretary, and then we have added paragraph B, beginning on or after July 1, 2027, the secretary initially considers the borrower's reasonable and affordable payment amount to be an amount equal to the minimum payment required under the IBR plan, except that if this amount is less than $10, the borrower's monthly payment is $10. 11, Romanet 3, we have added subparagraph A, capital A, before July 1, 2027. We've removed the capital A with a lowercase a. Subparagraph B, on or after July 1, 2027, a borrower may only obtain the benefit of a suspension of administrative wage garnishment while also attempting to rehabilitate a defaulted loan a maximum of twice per loan. 12, Romanet 1, we have added after August 14, 2008, comma, and before July 1, 2027, comma. We have added Romanet 2, effective for any defaulted direct loan on or after July 1, 2027, the borrower may not rehabilitate the loan again if the loan returns to default status following the second rehabilitation. Any questions or comments on 685-211? Okay, on discussion draft 685-219, we are going to be making changes to this provision, so I recommend that we just table this one for right now until we bring you back new text tomorrow. And that's where we're going to be addressing PSLF buyback and periods of forbearance and deferment in the WRAP program. So stay tuned for some additional text around that. Discussion draft number 15, 685-220 consolidation. Subparagraph A, before July 1, 2028, we have changed the capital T to a lowercase t for the word the, added a semicolon and added the word or, added paragraph capital B, on or after July 1, 2028, the borrower has a federal consolidation loan and is in default or has been submitted to the guarantee agency by the lender for default aversion, and the borrower wants to consolidate the federal consolidation loan into the direct loan program for the purpose of obtaining the income-based repayment plan or repayment assistance plan. Adding H1, excuse me, for a direct consolidation loan made before July 1, 2026, change the capital A to a lowercase a, and removed the words for a direct consolidation loan, added a comma, a space. For paragraph 2, for a direct consolidation loan made on or after July 1, 2026, a borrower may choose the tiered standard repayment plan or the repayment assistance plan in accordance with sections 685-208, 685-209, and may change repayment plans in accordance with section 685-210B. In I2 Romanet 1, we have updated the cross-reference to read B3 Romanet 4 or 5 Romanet 4. In subparagraph Romanet 2, we've updated the cross-reference to be B2 Romanet 3 or 7 Romanet 3. In 3, Romanet 1, we have updated the cross-reference to be B2, Romanet 3, 3, Romanet 4, 5, Romanet 4, and 7, Romanet 3. May not exceed the amount of the direct consolidation loan. Any questions or comments on 685-220 consolidation? Okay. 685-221, we have revised paragraph A and added paragraph E. Paragraph A, this is the alternative repayment plan. We have added to this, the secretary may provide an alternative repayment plan to a borrower, and here's what we've added, who has not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026, and subparagraph E, the repayment plan under this section shall only apply to direct loans made before July 1, 2026. Okay. I have several 685-203s. And I have several 685-219. Let me see. And then we have 680. All right, friends, guess what? We are now down to provisions that we are still looking at. So at this point, are there any comments or questions or things that we have not addressed where we left off last time to where we're kicking off for the rest of the week here? We've talked about the ones that we have all thumbs up. We still have a few thumbs sideways. We're staying away from the things that we could have a thumbs down on right now. We're not going to talk about those yet because we know that we're making changes to those. And so we can look a little bit at some of the other changes in 685-203 that we did make to provide clarification going back to the original language that we had on some provisions that we haven't talked about, but stay away from any of the things that we don't really need to speak on. So Linnea, if you would go to the revised 685-203 provisions that we have the new text on. I don't know that it's new, but we have more changes. Look, she's already there. Okay. In B2 Romanet 3, we added after July 1, 2012 and ending on or before June 30th, 2026. We added 4 loan limits for graduate and professional students for periods of enrollment beginning on or after July 1, 2026. We had originally added, notwithstanding paragraph 1 of this section A, and in paragraph 2, notwithstanding paragraph 1 of this section. I'm sorry, I'm reading from a 1020. I am not sure why this is even in my. Just kidding.
Tammy, we have a quick question from Jenna.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out if we have what we're looking at or if it's brand new from today.
No, we haven't given you anything from today yet. Yes, but this was from before, and I somehow got it mixed in with my good papers and didn't recognize the date until it was too late. Sorry. Now I have 2 of these, so I don't know which one is. What is in color? Okay. All right, let's try that again. So we had already talked about, so you already knew about the notwithstanding because we had talked about that already. This is 685-203, number 7. You have it? From 1031. That was the one we just sent out over the weekend. And I think we have already discussed all of these, and we still have the questions that we have the questions on. So I don't think there's any value in going over 685-203 again, because we still are at the same pain points as we were when we're still evaluating what we're going to do with, I think, Jenna and Patty's question with the proration, I think, is where we're at a standstill. Is that your recollection as well?
And we've sent 2 scenarios this afternoon.
Okay. So we may go ahead and look at those scenarios. Do you want to look at those or do you want to take them back? We're going to take them back. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. The takeaways from today that I have so far, we're going to look at the scenarios that we've just received for what Patty would call a double dipping proration for schedule of reduction and prorating the rest of that last term of a borrower's attendance. That is the only thing I have from 685-203. We have the AN, which I believe the E4, you and if I'm not mistaken, have we confirmed that with senior leadership yet?
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay, so we're not going to say that you're right yet, Alex. You have to wait. Oh, come on now.
We got to keep you in suspense long enough to get you to come back tomorrow.
We don't necessarily know for sure that you're right yet. You know you're right, but it's all about what we think. Ouch, ouch. So, and we do have here where we're taking back the undeclared, or as Timothy says, undecided. He said it could be undecided as well as undeclared. So we're going to take that back and we're going to discuss that. We hope to have something back for you tomorrow, but Renee is back there dreading how long of a night he might have with coming up with all this different reg text. So that's what I have for 203. We are going to take back 682-215 and look at B1 where you have, Ashley, you have indicated that you want us to take a look at the initially enters the plan, and you want that to be, tell me again what you wanted that to be. Completely taken out, delete that. Okay.
Correct.
I had that, but I wasn't sure that was all you wanted. You
Yeah.
don't want to add anything.
Yeah, I believe that was it. Yes, for that section. Yes.
Great. Thank you for clarifying. We are also, we did talk to you about the Fresh Start language, which you're going to show us what you saw, what you
Yeah,
had.
that's already been emailed to you.
Okay, great. So we'll take a look at that this evening and we'll make sure that we circle back on that one as well. We did, or we are going to add reg text in the parenthetical for 685-200, where we're going to list out the direct loans so that there's crystal clear cut. You know exactly what qualifies and we don't have any ambiguity around that reg provision. And so we didn't really have anything in 685-201, but it was cross-referencing to 685-200. We are, if we keep telling this guy that he's got things right, we're going to be in trouble. 34 CFR 668.3 as a cross-reference in 685-102. And Alex, thank you for sending those proposals to us so we could take a look at them. So that is what I am showing outstanding at this point. And then,
Yeah, no, and just we are.
and the other thing in the room.
No, you are. It's 685-209. You're changing you might be changing it to ICR instead of pay in ICR to clarify that it's the authority as opposed to the payment plan. That's on page 22.
685-209. Hold on.
Yep.
What page? So
Page 22, it's
I think my 22 is different.
oh, okay, sorry, then it's
Wait, I'm on 227. Hold on.
Yep.
Oh. All right, there's got to be an updated version of this one. Hold on, Alex. I'm sure that I have it somewhere.
It's 8 Romanet 1.
Got to find the right provision. Hold that thought.
209, 8 Romanet. Oh, yeah, 8 Romanet 1, 5.
Okay, I think it's right here. Oh, great day. Excuse me. Okay. You said 22.
I'm sorry. Yeah, K8. Oh, jeez.
Okay, forgiveness timeline.
Yeah,
Eight.
K8. Mm-hmm.
And The provision again, eight.
Romanet 1.5.
So you want to say prior to July 1, 2028, a monthly payment under the ICR,
Under an ICR.
under an
plan.
ICR plan, under this section of not less than the monthly payment required under the applicable plan, including the minimum payment permitted under such plan. Is that the only change?
Yep.
I would argue to actually spell income contingent repayment plan, because when it's capitalized ICR, it usually refers to the plan, the ICR plan. Just,
Yeah,
just as a, it's
Yeah.
a little lawyer tip.
I get a little bit confused about when it's an authority, and so, yeah.
Well, just because Renee has it doesn't mean the rest of us do. Renee always has it. That Renee and Eric, they come, they usually have it way before we do. I understand what you're saying, but I'm wondering, do we need to specify when we're talking about?
The problem is, so the main thing is that because you're specifying two
Right.
actual plans, so that
Right.
definitely needs to change.
Right.
And then I don't fully understand why it needs to be spelled out versus.
It's just when you refer to the IBR plan, it refers to IBR. If you say an income-based repayment plan, that's more of the category of plans. But it's just to keep it consistent. So
Yeah, also then it's lowercase, right? So it
Yes,
should be and lowercase income contingent repayment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Payment.
Okay.
And it's not a plan. So here's the thing. It's income contingent repayment,
Okay. Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so the difference here is when we're talking about income contingent repayment plan. So
So
if we're saying if it's the authority, it's usually the income contingent.
so can you say a monthly payment under income contingent repayment under this section?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jenna?
Thank you. Two quick questions. One, we got through 682.405, right? That was no issues, no changes. It's in the stack that we're not going to talk about anymore. Loan rehabilitation agreement.
Which provision? 67439?
405.
680.
682, 405. I don't think we have anything left in that one, but we will take another look at that just to make sure that we don't have anything. I don't have that in my still outstanding pile.
I think is a sorting error on my part. I was just
Oh,
trying to confirm.
Okay.
And then I was going to also ask if you had received any clarification since our last meeting on the HEAL increased loan limits.
We have. Thank you
Do you
for
mind
bringing up
sharing
something
it?
I did not want to talk about today. Yes. Jake, do you want to take that one?
Wow.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, my question was, have you received any feedback on the interpretation of the loan limits in the HEAL, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, so Jeff, you want me to take this? All right. Well, since I'm getting thrown under the bus, we did take it back and look at it in pretty great detail along with OMB. We read, HEAL still exists as it was. It's an old program, though. There are no new HEAL borrowers, right? That program has been out for a long time. Where there is, extended authority under FEL to create, a higher loan limit for specifically expensive programs, we don't believe that actually carries over under the new limits. The new limits take precedence. While there is the parallel terms language that we thought might cover it, upon closer inspection, because it basically provides notwithstanding anything else within this section, we believe that means that the loan limits supersede the older FEL, provisions for higher loans. So we don't, because of this flat overarching thing, because there are clear limits in place, we think that those trump the old authority for that. So in terms of what we'll have to do in terms of clarifying with the DCL, we might have to still do something there or provide that something isn't in effect anymore, but obviously we're not making any more FEL loans. So, the limits that existed at that time still exist. It's just that nobody else can get them because nobody else is getting FEL. So under the new direct loan limits, we don't think there's actually authority to just create higher limits for specific programs, I guess, to bring it all back.
Alex Ritchie.
Heading into the day, the department had listed 682,405 as dissent, and I know we've had a lot of conversation on it today, but we didn't actually take another pulse check, so I didn't know if the department wanted to do that.
Well, I'm glad you know what we're doing. Okay, 685, 682,405. I have to find it so we can read it and then do a pulse check on it. So give me just a second.
So the issue.
I
Ashley.
don't think we're ready for a pulse check. I think we still have some outstanding.
That
things
was
to-
the fresh start one, right?
Yeah, so, yeah,
But
Alex is
I
getting
mean,
ahead of-
we're not making changes to the reg text though.
but I still would like you to consider what we wrote before I vote on anything.
And you just sent that to us today?
Yes.
Okay,
I was just,
so a new proposal.
yes.
Gotcha.
It's just to clarify what our concern was. So
Yes.
you could properly address it, yes.
Okay. And we all know about 685-209, that there was a tad bit of a disconnect in our understanding of what our legal aid non-federal negotiators were asking us to look at in relation to combined income. And they were looking at it from the perspective of combined payment amounts for married borrowers filing jointly. It took us a while to get there, but when the light bulb went off that we were all talking about three different things and we recognized that none of us were on the same page, it was very easy to understand at that point where our legal aid constituents were coming from. And so we are taking that back to look at that. We do believe that the intent would be something for us to look at about the proration around those borrowers' payments, should they both have loans and they're married filing jointly. So that is to be determined tomorrow. All right, so let's recap one more time. We have 682-405. We have the scenarios for the double dipping proration for 685-203M. We have the issue with married borrowers filing jointly and proration of monthly payments per borrower. We have the issue of professional student definition that we will take another look at Mr. Holtz and others' proposal on that. Am I missing anything else? The fresh start, 64, we got that one.
Bob.
Oh, Bob's issue with, so Bob, I've got a question for you on that. When military gets called up and they leave and they're on a leave of absence, they're not considered withdrawn. They're under different forbearances. So the issue here is, are you worried that they're not covered under some things because we're looking at, no?
Bob, Bob, as I understand your issue, it's specifically to the grandfathering provisions,
At least.
okay. And the issue is ensuring that when someone leaves school, because of their military obligations, that they don't lose the benefit of the grandfathering provision because of the mechanism in which they left school. So that could be, if they're on a leave of absence, they continue, but in many instances, they may not be continuing under a leave of absence.
Correct.
Okay.
I did have a second
Thank you.
somewhat related issue. Okay. And that was in the paper that I submitted as alternate in the last week about the additional loan repayment programs that various services have and various federal agencies have for veterans, and to make sure that those do not interrupt any of the other elements that you guys are introducing with the RISE regulations.
Can you be more specific on that?
Hold a second. I'll bring it up if you want to come back to it.
And we'll go next to Ashley.
I just wanted to clarify that the email we sent you this afternoon with regards to rehabilitation and Fresh Start is also applicable to section 685-211. So it'll also apply to that section as well, just for clarity.
So can I get just maybe prompt Bob on this one? So I know that the Army, for example, has a college loan repayment plan. That's the type of thing that you're talking about.
Yes, sir. And in the I probably highlighted about 20 of these.
Right. Okay. We'll pull those as well. Thank you, Bob.
And then there in that letter, in that white paper, I also raised concerns about the unique nature of military and veteran permanent and total disability discharge being preempted by the RISE regulation. And if that's and if I'm smoking dope on that one, and I shouldn't be worried about it, I'll accept that.
Between this one over here saying, oh snap, and you all right. Okay. I think we are losing control. It really has been a long day, hasn't it?
Hey, you're lucky. Waiting all day for someone to go 6-7 so I could go, ah!
Okay, back to RISE and TPD. You guys are really playing a fun game of Stump the Feds today. I do not see any reason why TPD would have anything to do. There's nothing in the total permanent disability provisions that are impacted by RISE in any way. Now, there was one piece, but I don't think it's not an issue in the sense. I'll go back and I'll confirm because we added the provision that something was looking and it was correlated to TPD, but I think it was the way that we were looking at something, but I don't think it's going to have any impact whatsoever. So I'm not going to say that you were smoking anything, but I do not think that that is a provision that you will have to be concerned about.
And then you raised earlier this morning SDRA provisions, how those might be impacted.
Okay. All right. So rehab, Fresh Start. We all know about 685-209 and our review of the repayment assistance plan, treatment of payments by married borrowers, and then our double dipping scenario. So I think that is all I have on my list. Okay. So we also have a new proposal on 685-215. Is that what you said? No? Okay.
No, I was just saying that the email that we sent you also implicates the 682, 211, 685, 211,
Yeah.
and 682, 405.
Yep. Okay, I got that. All right. Okay. So at this point, it is 3:45, and I recommend, given that we have quite a bit of work to do on the provisions that we need to amend today, that we, unless there's any other business that we need to discuss, that you give us the extra time to go back up and huddle and try to flesh out these regulatory provisions. When we come back to the table tomorrow with regulatory provisions that we're changing, what we would like to do is send you a document later this evening with just the changes of those regulatory sections. We will give you a clear cut, this is for provision XXX, so that instead of killing a number of trees, we basically are going to give you a running list of the provisions that would be inserted in the respective sections that we need. If it doesn't work, we'll have it up on the screen and we'll send it to you via an email. And so you'll have it as well. And if you need to print it, maybe perhaps you can print it at the hotel. Okay, does that sound like a plan?
We have a question from Scott.
And just real quick, you are planning on sending the scenarios you discussed earlier, the answers?
No, we're not going to give them to you.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to do that. We're going to send the scenarios. So I think I already asked my team to do that, but thank you for the reminder just in case. And we have a couple of charts that we're going to send along with you. I made them make me cheat sheets in case you all tried to stump the Fed with math. I said, just give me every scenario so that I know how to say it really quickly and I'll look smart. So you didn't stump me on that one.
Now, when giving you guys extra time, that doesn't mean you use that time to come up with more questions for us. So, okay.
I do want to say a hearty thank you. You know, we're laughing about this, and it's good that we're laughing so late in the day on a very long Monday, you know, when we've had travel and a weekend and all sorts of fun stuff happening with baseball games and other things going on. You know, the purpose of what we're doing here is so important, and I think all of us come to the table from our perspective, and we're working together collaboratively, even when it's painful at times and we're not on the same page, we still work at it until we can get there. So I wanted to say on behalf of the department, we appreciate each one of you for what you're doing and working with us to try to get it right. This stuff is complicated. And it is not, these are not easy provisions. And OBBB really did an overhaul of many of the loan provisions. 16 provisions is a lot of provisions, and some of them are very dense. So thank you for sticking with us and pushing us towards excellence. We really appreciate it. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you all very much. We'll adjourn for today.